Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava. Leg?
Too much leg. Sorry.
Yeah, I figured. No problem.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Dana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Ranjana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajakacarya Ashtoto Tata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajakacarya Ashtoto Tata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this third day of December 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 13, entitled Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness, text number 27, on page 559. 559. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam chetra chetragnya sangyogat tadvidhi bharatarshava yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam chetra chetragya sangyogat tadvidhi bharatarshava yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam chetra chetragya sangyogat tadvidhi bharatarshava yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam chetra chetragya sangyogat tadvidhi bharatarshava. Aditya. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvastavara jangamam chetra chetragya sangogat tadvidhi bharatarshava. Luis, you want to try? Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam chetra chetragya sangogat tadvidhi bharatarshava. Ladies, go ahead, Ami. You go ahead. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam chetra chetragya sangyogat tadvidhi bharatarshava. Maraji. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam chetra chetragya sangogat tadvidhi bharatarshava. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam chetra chetragya sangogat tadvidhi bharatarshava. Bhakta Chad.
Yavat sanjayate kinchit
Yavat sanjayate kinchit
sattvam stavara jangamam
sattvam stavara jangamam
chetra chetragya samyogat
chetra chetragya sangogat
tadvidhi bharatarshava.
tadvidhi bharatarshava. Anyone else? Okay. Yavat, whatever, sanjayate, comes into being, kinchit, anything, sattvam, existence, stavara, not moving, jangamam, moving, chetra, of the body, chetragya, and the knower of the body, sangyogat, by the union between, tad vidhi, you must know it, Bharata Rishabha, or chief of the Bharatas. Translation. O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. Purport. Both material nature and the living entity, which were existing before the creation of the cosmos, are explained in this verse. Whatever is created is but a combination of the living entity and material nature. There are many manifestations like trees, mountains, and hills which are not moving, and there are many existences which are moving, and all of them are but combinations of material nature and the superior nature, the living entity. Without the touch of the superior nature, the living entity, nothing can grow. The relationship between material nature and spiritual nature is eternally going on. And this combination is effected by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he is the controller of both the superior and inferior natures. The material nature is created by him, and the superior nature is placed in this material nature. And thus all these activities and manifestations take place. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, approaching the end of this chapter, a few verses, and Krishna is continuing to describe what Arjuna wanted to know about. Purusha, Prakriti, Chaitra, Chaitragya, the living entity, either the original living entity or the living entity, individual living entity who is acting as the Purusha, an enjoyer, and is situated in Prakriti. Prakriti being this material nature, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. And everything that we see, that's whatever we see, whatever comes into being, whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and knower of the field. So this is, as we see throughout the Bhagavad Gita, another way or another statement about how we can begin to see the divine in everything. We don't just see a tree. We see as, oh, there's a living entity whose consciousness has become very covered because of some sinful reaction in previous life. And so now it's forced to stand for some years and practically have a covered consciousness, but the consciousness is still there, and when that tree expires eventually, the soul will go up to the next level, whatever the next level is going to be from these tall trees, I don't know. Another tree, maybe a rose bush, who knows. Now, if it's a rose bush in this garden out here, it's a very fortunate birth, because then that rose can be picked and offered to Krishna and immediately accelerate the journey of the soul up to the human life. So this is Krishna's reiterating things that he said before, but it's worth repeating. There's nothing in existence that we see that is outside the realm of the energy of God, the energy of Krishna. And the idea is when we go through our life, we're meant to see through the eyes of Shastra, this famous phrase, Shastra Chakshu. So, and famously in the 7th chapter, he began saying that Rasoham Apsukonteya Prabhasmi Shashi Suryayam. So he says there that I am the light of the sun and the moon. So the next time the sun comes up, we can say, oh, there's Krishna smiling on us with his sunlight, you see. And the moonshine is also there, and any light, fire, it's also Krishna. So the trick is to see the world that way, and then to interact with the world on the basis of that understanding. So if this water, I'm the taste of water, and this water is Krishna's energy, then next time I drink water, I will think, oh, Krishna's so kind to have provided this water for me, so that I can nourish the body, and therefore do service for him. We've just been studying Ambarish, King Ambarish. So he was a perfect example of that. Although he was a king, and kings usually have so much opportunity for sense gratification, But in the description of King Ambarish, you don't find any of that. Whatever he's doing with his hands, he's cleaning the temple, and with his ears, he's hearing Krishna Katha, and with his voice, he's speaking Krishna Katha. His mind is on Krishna. He's already a pure devotee. And Durvasa Muni, he felt envious because he was getting honor. This is more than just the king is honored. He was honored as a great devotee. And so Durvasa, as you know the story, he tried to challenge him and embarrass him. And let's face it, he tried to kill him with that, mystic power. He invoked his demoness, pure fire. But he was thwarted by the Sudarshan Chakra. He was protected by Krishna. And then the amazing thing is that so then this chakra started, chasing this Durvasa all over the universe, and he couldn't find help from Shiva, couldn't find help from Brahma, and he couldn't find help from Vishnu. Vishnu also said, Aham Bhakta Paradino Nasrutantra. I'm not independent. I'm dependent on my devotees, their love for me. If you really want relief, you have to go back down to Ambarish. So, okay, boom, we went down. Ambarish was just waiting for him. It was a year later. He hadn't eaten anything. How powerful he was. He's fasting for a year. He did drink the water, though, to break the Ekadashi fast, but that was it. And then Durvasa, asked him, to call off the chakra, and then chakra releases him, So he sees the glory of Ambarish, the power, his mystic power, as far eclipses. So Durvasa was actually purified by this whole experience. We learn at the very end that he glorified Ambarish, and and so he's changed in heart. So, what's going on there? We're seeing repeatedly throughout the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, all the literatures, the way in which Krishna he deals. Like you read the Krishna book, right? And you see that it's from the day that Krishna appears, practically, he's already he puts these challenges. Putana attacked, right? She was sent there. So he doesn't, expand himself into a powerful thing that's caught up in Putana's head. He keeps his identity as a little baby, right? Because he doesn't want to spoil his relationship with Yashoda and the others, So he keeps his, but he's Krishna, he's God, and he sucks out her life along with her breath, She's, but she's blessed. She's blessed. She doesn't, she doesn't merge. Usually the demons merge into the existence of the Supreme. No, she gets promoted to a place up in the spiritual world as a wet nurse for Krishna, for Mother Yashoda. How's that? You see? Because she at least, had the attitude to some degree of suckling him, as a mother. So he accepted that, purified all of the enmity and all of the nonsense in her heart, and she was eligible to be promoted there, which is remarkable. It's amazing. So these kind of pastimes of Krishna and his qualities and everything, if we allow it, if we allow these things to attract us by following the principles of not engaging in so many ways with the material energy, but rather, whenever suitable, engaging the material energy in the service of Krishna. This is one of the basic principles spoken in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It says, anasaktasya vishayan yataham apriyunjata nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. So this idea of yukta vairagya is very important. Yukta vairagya means that detachment that attaches you to Krishna. In other words, we don't just want to become detached. We want to become attached to Krishna and detached from Maya. So what this verse says is, anasakta sivishayan, without attachment to the object of the senses. It's so easy to be attracted, right? We have these beautiful flowers, right? And people grow gardens all over here, But our garden here, is meant for the glorification of Krishna. We can pick these flowers and offer them to Krishna on the altar, or make garlands, you see? So we see this object of the senses differently. Even the prasadam. I remember, we don't do it so much anymore, but there was a prayer to say before prasadam. Sharada vijajal, shadendra hitahikal, jife pale vishaya sagare, Taramanje divayati loba moya sudumati takaticha chakatina sangsare Krishna baladaya moya karibare jifa joy swapasadhana dilobai Sayanamita pao Radha Krishna gunagao Premadako chaitanyanitai. You ever learn that one? Right, we used to say. So Sharira Vijajal, that the senses are a network of ignorance, leading us down, But Krishna has kindly given us this nice prasadam, so we can engage our tongue, and remember Krishna and become purified. And it's a basic pillar of Lord Chaitanya's movement. Dancing, chanting, chanting, dancing, dancing, chanting, and when you get tired, take some prasadam. And then rest a little bit, and then begin again. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's it. Who could fail to be attracted, you know? So, Krishna, as he explains in these verses to Durvasa Muni, you know, I don't know anything but the sadhus don't know anything but me. And sadhus means devotee, pure devotees. So, and then he says, I'm controlled by the love of my devotees. Now this calls to mind this very important verse by Lord Brahma. When Lord Brahma is bewildered and he gets, you know, where he saw Krishna kill Aghasura, and then Krishna, you know, saved his friends, and they sat down and they're having lunch, you know. So he says, who is this? How can you know? So he tested him, right? He stole the boy. The calves had already wandered away. Krishna wandered away. By that time, Brahma had found them, put them into a mystic slumber in a cave somewhere. Krishna, and then while Krishna's out looking for the calves, Brahma takes his boys, puts them under this spell, and puts them in another cave. So Krishna comes back, and you know he sees, oh, okay, this must be Brahma. So now this is, you know, he expands himself into an identical set of boys and calves, and as you know, it's obvious every single person, whether boy or man or woman, they have their own individual form and pastimes, you know, and personality and way of dressing and everything. So Krishna, you know, because he's omniscient, he was able to duplicate all of that, and also for the calves also. So what you know? So first of all, it's, you know, he's thinking of Brahma. Brahma's going to get bewildered by this, right? It's Brahma Vimohan Leela. So he'll set Brahma straight. But first, for a whole year, which is just a few moments in Brahma's time, he goes back and everything is the same. He's going out in the day and with the boys, you know, and the women, they don't understand that this is not their boy. They think it's their boy, but somehow the love is increased so much, you know. And the calves and the cows, you know, they're suckling their calves and they're suckling Krishna. So he gave all the cows and all the mothers a chance to personally perform that intimate service for a year. And he's playing with them, everything's going on. So Brahma then comes back after a moment of his time, you know, which is a whole year. And he said, what is this? I thought I put the boys in the caves, you know. So he checks on the other boy, and they're there. He comes back, the cows are there, or the calves are there. But Krishna's also there. So finally he realizes that he's made a big mistake. So he bows down to Krishna, you know, and he surrenders, and Krishna accepts him. He doesn't say anything. But then Brahma, he offers these prayers. And in these prayers, the third prayer is the most cited prayer of these. And is pertinent to this story of Ambarish and Durvasa. So he says, Jnani piyasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti san mukaditam babadiya vartam stane stita shutikatam tanuvan manobi ye prayasho ajita jito pasitaistrilokya. So it's ajita jita. This is how you can conquer the unconquerable Lord. You see? So the first thing is, give up all of this speculation, you know, the constant wrangling about, you know, the Mayavadi stuff, you know. Jnane piyasam, throw it away. Udapasya namanta eva, and surrender to who? To a great soul, a realized soul. Pasya namanta eva, jivanti san mukaditam, and live in this way. San mukaditam bhavadiya vartam. Listen to the great vibrations and descriptions of Krishna emanating from the mouths of the pure devotees. Jivanti san mukaditam, the sun, the sat of the pure devotee. Bhavadiya vartam, your accounts of your deeds and so forth. Stane stitak, you don't have to do anything. Don't leave home or anything. You know, you don't have to do anything radical. But add this process of hearing ardently. Shruti-gatam, the path of hearing pure vibration. Tanuvan manobir, and you have to serve these vibrations with your body, mind, and words. Well, how do you do that? Well, with your mind, you know, you have to hear and think about them, and be very attentive. With your body, your senses, you have to serve. You have to act according to the instructions you hear. And with your words, you repeat them. You memorize shlokas and you repeat them for others' benefit. So if you relate to the great souls in that way by listening to them, serving, of course, and this hearing like that is also service. We should know that. Then what will be the result? Ye prayaso, for the most part, you're able to come to the state of ajita jita, conquering the unconquerable Lord. Ye prayaso ajita jita upasitais trilokam, in all three worlds. This is the only way you can conquer. So the whole point is that you're associating with Krishna through sound. Now the foremost way, of course, is chanting his name. But then there's all of the vibrations from the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, other books, and follow in the footsteps of those. And when we hear them from the right source, and we hear them explained from the right source, very important, because Prabhupada, he's coming from India, and they had these Bhagavad readings, 7 days, right? Bhagavad Saptaha, imitating Shukadev sitting, reciting to Pariksit. So he said, no, you cannot, we cannot understand Bhagavatam in 7 days. It means, what is that? We chant all the time, Nashta Prayashabhada Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavad Gita Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. So you can destroy practically to nil the abhadras, the inauspicious things in your mind, in your heart, the karma, by regularly. Nitya means continually. Now this is a grammatical thing, you can learn this. There's continuously and continually. They're not the same word. Continuously literally means without stopping. Continually means regularly. We're continually having Bhagavad Gita class, and many of you are continually attending. Repeatedly. So that's what it means. It's not just you go for once, when you go to the pilgrimage site, you go to Vrindavan, then you attend class for a couple of times, come home, and then never have a class again. No, it means you integrate it into your life. Very important part of the movement of the society, probably, is this regular class in morning and evening. I've been trying to maintain the evening class all these years, so doing my best I can. So Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, serving the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. That's why we always say, those who regularly attend class in Srimad Bhagavatam and serve the pure devotee, then how's it good? Then they can destroy abhadras, all the things in the mind, and get rid of bad karma and so forth. It's a very purifying process. And it's the same of a kirtan, the sound vibration. Chaito Darpana Marjanam, the purification is there. Which means we already have the perfection of love of God in our heart. It's just covered. Lord Chaitanya, he's certified. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Korehe Udoy. He's telling Sanatana Goswami. The eternal perfection, this is our eternal perfection of Krishna Prema, love for Krishna, love for God, is there in the heart. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi. Sadhya is something that you get, you're bringing in, that you don't have. You already have it. It's not something, you just have to awaken it. You have it already. So how do we awaken it? Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte. Hearing, etc. Well, what's etc.? Chanting, mostly. Hearing, chanting, remembering. Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte. The consciousness becomes purified, and Karya Hridaya. That natural love which was already there in the heart awakens, depending on our sincerity and our determination to become pure as quickly as possible. So this is again, as we learned in the text 22, that our fate is in our own hand. Purushak Bhakatistehi Bhunkvit Pakati Jangunan. The living entity who's in the enjoying mood, known as the Purusha, he's in Prakati, Purusha Prakati Stohi. Bhunkte Pakati Jangunan. He or she is experiencing the varieties of the material modes. How we relate with those modes. Karanam Guna Sangha. The Sangha, the association with the modes, those modes that we're attracted to or that we let influence us. Bhunkte Karanam Guna Sangasa Sadasad Yoni Janmasu. That's the cause of what do we take a auspicious or inauspicious birth. So the most auspicious birth is not a material birth at all. It's simply finding ourselves in the spiritual world, reinstated in our original Swarup Siddhi. So that Swarup is there. It's been covered for millions of years, but we can awaken by this process. So it's all up to us. We can, we've been given all these great facilities and the chants, the books, the association, the holy name, and the prasadam, and everything. Now we're having a Rath Yatra on Saturday. And the next day is another important day. I forget what it is. It's something. What is it? Bhaktisiddhanta's disappearance, I think. Yeah. It's a big weekend coming up. So all of these arrangements that Srila Prabhupada so wonderfully set up for us and are traditional, they're ways in which we can engage in service to Krishna and in service to other devotees and so forth, purify our hearts until that natural love awakens and we become less and less interested in sense gratification, more and more interested in serving Krishna and helping others to become servants of Krishna. So that's, I don't know how related that is to this verse that we just had, but I think it's important. But Krishna is saying, whatever you see, it's a combination of spirit and matter. So you try to understand it that way. All right, let's go on, text 28. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinasyat swavanashyatantam vinasyat swavanashyantam yak pashyati sapashyati. Okay. One who sees the supersoul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the supersoul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. Purport. Anyone who by good association can see three things combined together, the body, the proprietor of the body or individual soul, and the friend of the individual soul, is actually in knowledge. Unless one has the association of a real knower of spiritual subjects, one cannot see these three things. Those who do not have such association are ignorant. They simply see the body, and they think that when the body is destroyed, everything is finished. But actually, it is not so. After the destruction of the body, both the soul and the supersoul exist, and they go on eternally in many various moving and non-moving forms. The Sanskrit word Parameshvara is sometimes translated as the individual soul, because the soul is the master of the body, and after the destruction of the body, he transfers to another form. In that way, he is master. But there are others who interpret this Parameshvara to be the supersoul. In either case, both the supersoul and the individual soul continue. They are not destroyed. One who can see in this way can actually see what is happening. And, this remembrance of our eternal life and the eternal existence of Krishna and his representative and the relationship, this really needs to be like a guiding basis for our life in this material world, because it can give us a perspective on what's really important. The problem is that people in the conditioned state, and I know some of you were grown up in Krishna consciousness. I don't think you have, but maybe all the others have. They've had exposure to the Vedic culture before. But for years, it just, none of this was even on my radar. I remember, if you forgive me, it just sticks in my mind. I was a kid, maybe, 11 years old. But I grew up in an atheistic family, communist. I was trained as an Orthodox communist, I've mentioned that before. All right. So, and one of the things about communism is, that God is, what is it? The religion is the opium of the people, or opiate. It's bad. It's a bad thing, religion. So anyway, I was well, maybe if there's a God, if there is a God, and I raised my voice and looking up in the sky, and I said I'm not going to repeat what I said, but it was some kind of insult, and nothing happened. I said, well, this kind of proves it. There's no God. He would have struck me down. I was a fool. But people go through their whole lives with that mentality, is that I don't have time for religion. I remember I was raised, the way the religions are, so many people who were raised as Catholics, and and they remember, it's kind of a scary thing because they try to scare you. You go to hell if you don't come, on Sunday, do this. little kids getting all scared. But that's not the manifestation of Krishna that we find. Krishna is this all loving, attractive form, and the process of devotional service is a very joyful one. It's not like, I'll be honest with you. Every morning, I've learned so much on this walk. You heard some. I walk up Cass Avenue and walk back. I walk about 3/4 of a mile up. So there are these two big churches there. They've been there for years. One is at the date 1948. That's the same age as me, 78 years old. Almost 70. This is 77. But anyway. So it's been there a long time. And you can see it's very prosperous. I know that they own property behind, that whole block practically. And so there's no question. But I come there very early, 6:30, I pass 6:37, so there's not a lot of people. But oftentimes I'll have the front door open, and you can see, and there, in full light on the altar is Jesus, on the cross, and they've got him, And, so I say, Haribol, I go on Hari chanting. But what a kind of scary image of that is that, religion is that the way he's suffering, and he's suffering because of our sins, so you feel that you're also responsible for that suffering. I think that's the idea, But it's kind of just such a contrast with the wonderful, Gaudiya Vaishnava understanding that God is not, He doesn't take any pleasure in punishing us, That's okay. Put that in the charge of the material energy and so forth. But if you really approach Krishna, you can see he's this all attractive figure, And what is he doing? Leela, he's playing and he's enjoying. And you read the Krishna book. And he's like engineering all of these emotional pastimes with his devotees, right? He goes out with his friends, and then if his friends drink the water, but Kali is poisoned, they all die. Yeah. And he brings them back to life, and he jumps in to punish his Kaliya. And it's all poison, but somehow he survives, and he's fighting with his, and dancing with this Kaliya snake. And then Kaliya grabs him. And you just see, what is he, like 7, 8 years old, a little fragile little boy, they think, now they look like he's finished, so they're lamenting. Mother Yashoda they finally come to the, because, they had all these bad omens, so what happened? How's Krishna doing? Oh my God, Balaram is not with him, it was his birthday or something. So now there's so much danger, so they follow the footprints all the way to the river, and then they see this monstrous, multi-headed cobra, and Krishna's he's wrapped in one of those coils, and he looks like he's a goner, The Mother Yashoda's freaking out, says he wants to go in, and Balaram's holding them all back because he knows that there's really ultimately no danger. But all living entities, the cows and the people, but all the insects, everyone, they all love Krishna, and they're all lamenting. It's depths of despair, So after an hour or something, a long time, he breaks out. And then he starts dancing on the hoods, and the Gandharvas are singing, and the drums are playing, And suddenly the Bijbasis, oh, they're so wonderful, So he's engineered this deep emotional, tsunami, in their hearts. And you study the pastimes, and they're all like that, I mean, with his friends, he's playing, but there's periodic demons come, and he saves them, or then everyone's in danger. This Kaliya pastime, so they've got their Krishna back, but now it's late, so okay, we'll just camp out here on the shore, and then the forest fire comes, right? He swallows the forest fire. So that's so different than Western religion, which is really the vengeful God and all of that, and that's why I was so happy that because I grew up with that understanding, but I could see that the human beings had made a mess of the world. There's all of this anxiety and things going on. So when I eventually went to the temple and I saw, I took part in the chanting and read the philosophy, especially the teaching of Lord Chaitanya, that really got me. And because I was very philosophically inclined anyway. So you have to feel, so thankful that you've been brought into it, that you've been given a chance, and Krishna's really helping us and attracting us in so many ways. So we should let that attraction happen and do those things that we know will please Krishna and avoid those things that we know won't please Krishna. And then we'll understand more and more about it. All right, how far did we get? Did we do 28? We did 28, right? Yes, we did 28 for sure. I think 29 we didn't do. Right? Yes, we didn't do. Is that what you're saying? Okay, okay. Samam pashyani sarvatra samavastitam ishwaram nahanastyatmanatmanam tato yati param gatim. One who sees the Supersoul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination. Purport. The living entity, by accepting his material existence, has become situated differently than in his spiritual existence. But if one understands that the Supreme is situated in his Paramatma manifestation everywhere, that is, if one can see the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living thing, he does not degrade himself by a destructive mentality, and he therefore gradually advances to the spiritual world. The mind is generally addicted to sense-gratifying processes. But when the mind turns to the Supersoul, one becomes advanced in spiritual understanding. Okay. So, seeing God present everywhere and engaging as far as possible in glorification and remembrance and helping others to be Krishna conscious. This is the way we can advance. Prakratyaiva chakarmani kriyamanani sarvashaha yak pashyati tatatmanam akartaram sapashyati. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. Purport. This body is made by material nature under the direction of the Supersoul, and whatever activities are going on in respect to one's body are not his doing. Whatever one is supposed to do, either for happiness or for distress, one is forced to do because of the bodily constitution. The self, however, is outside all these bodily activities. This body is given according to one's past desires. To fulfill desires, one is given the body, with which he acts accordingly. Practically speaking, the body is a machine designed by the Supreme Lord to fulfill desires. Because of desires, one is put into difficult circumstances to suffer or to enjoy. This transcendental vision of the living entity, when developed, makes one separate from bodily activities. One who has such a vision is an actual seer. Just like, reminds me, driving a car. When I first learned to drive a car, of course, there's the car and there's me, and I have to think, well, turn left, turn right, I got to push that, and so it's a bit of a, austerity, and you're very attentive because you're driving this big machine, But after a while, I for a year at least, I was a taxi driver. I don't know if I ever told you that. Not in New York, but in Long Island, And believe it or not, we used to use maps. We didn't have any GPS or anything like that. So I had these maps. So I got pretty good at it, at driving, And I felt, I felt that the car was, I was in control of that car, and so it was kind of an extension of my will, which is, everyone thinks like that, but it was a, I don't want to say empowering experience, but I was comfortable doing that job for a while. But when you understand that we're within this car of the body, right? It's a machine, a vehicle in a sense, and it's a great opportunity. We learn that the human body is so rare. right? You look at so many different forms out there. They're also living entities. That's what you see. But the poor grass, I mean, on a lawn, I mean, there's millions of individual souls in there, right? The same soul as us, but they're in that body because of something they did, and they'll also come up to the human form. But the human form is so rare. This is what we need to appreciate. That the time we have, first of all, the knowledge that we can get from books, and then we can understand, well, how we can act in such a way for our ultimate good. Just like, part of my walk, it starts right here on the block. And the first thing I get is the bodega on the corner, and they said, oh, the lottery, big sign, play the California lottery, right? And it used to be, oh, you could win 20 million, 30 million. Now it's always, $559 million, Wow. Who could resist, So people play all the time, and they spend all the money in it. But I'm not tempted to buy a ticket, Because I'm thinking, first of all, even if I would win, that would be horrible. Because then, oh, Mr. Dravida, he's supposed to be a teacher now and he's gambling, They don't care how much you win, Even if I... So I think it's such an illusion, and the odds are like astronomical, It's just and then I realized that, oh, I've already won, First of all, being a human being is such a rare thing. But being a human being who has had the good fortune to come in touch with a pure devotee and to be practicing Krishna consciousness, this Hare Krishna mantra is much more valuable than $1 billion, right? It's priceless. People don't know that, so we have to try to convince them, And if you really take advantage of it, just like if you win $1 billion, but then you just bury it, somewhere, and you don't actually spend it, what's the use? So not only do we realize how precious it is, but we want to realize that value by chanting nicely and purely and giving it to others, and like being agents of Lord Chaitanya. So it's a whole change in your way of seeing yourself, way of seeing the world. That's what Krishna is describing here. When you go for a walk and you see the world, what do we see? Well, there's so many other human beings. Well, what do we see? That, oh, there's a living entity, and there's the super soul there, and there's karma is getting them to do. So then, if it's a marathon, you may have some books. Would you like to learn something about, you try to give the book to somebody. Like Marcy, she buys the books, she doesn't sell them, she just, and wherever she goes, and she has books. I saw her once in Sprouts, she had met one guy, and she was coming again to bring him a book, just putting out the lettuces and the tomatoes, and she was, and she's in ecstasy. I've seen, she attends the class. Marcy, if you're out there, Haribol, she used to come regularly, physically, until the pandemic. Then she hasn't been, but she attends on the line, I think, most of the time. And I've seen, and I can, she comes and I see her in the kirtan, and I see, and she's very enlivened by just, she has facilities. She buys a box of books and she'll go out and give it to people, like that. So that's who we are. We're Lord Chaitanya's representatives, Krishna's representatives, and we'll find out in chapter 18. There's no devotee more dear to him than those who are teaching his message to others. And that's one of the reasons I give this class. No, I didn't. I'm just kidding. Even if that wasn't the case, I still give the class. But basically, we're just coming in touch with Krishna's teachings and and Srila Prabhupada here, and it's just such a purifying, enlivening experience. All right, so no questions, comments? And where did we finish? Did we finish with 29? 30, we did 30. Okay, so we'll start with 31 on Monday. But in the meanwhile, a few enlightening verses. Some of you haven't heard this one, or at least not lately. This is a verse said, I think it's said to be written by Madhavendra Puri, but it was recited by Lord Chaitanya in his teachings to Lord Sadhanathan Goswami. It's divided into 3 sections. Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. Sambandha being, who is God, who am I, what's the relationship, And then Abhideya is the practice. to realize that, chanting and getting up early, all the things we do. And then a prayojan is the final goal, pure love for Krishna, going back to Godhead. So this is the beginning of his teachings in the Abhideya about the practice. And you sense this verse. Kama dinang katina katita palita durni deshas. Tesham jata mayna karuna nattapano pashantihi. Utsvijayata nadiyadupate sampratam labna buddhis. Tvamayata kshadanam abhayam mam niyung svatma dasye. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy. Yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. It's a nice prayer. Hare Krishna. And you can see the intelligence is the key. My higher intelligence has awoken. And we learn right in the 3rd chapter, the intelligence needs to control the mind and then control the senses, the higher self controlling the lower self. And then we can, lead an auspicious life. If our senses are controlling us, pulling us here and there, then we're victims and, we're headed down. We don't want to do that. So that's the thing. There's so much sense in engagement. We can use the ears to hear and the tongue to taste the prasadam and the hands to do so many services. Play the drum like that. He's late. I had to play the drum. They had their hands like this. They didn't want my drumming. I'm just kidding. Maharaj saw him and he said, "So nice. Thank you for playing the drum nicely. We need that." And Ramapati will be back this month, so he'll also help. Anyway, so there it is. And we have time for one short other one. Okay. Let's see which I can share with you. Okay, well, this is an old favorite, This is an easy, really very easy verse to memorize. Maduram, maduram, bapadasya vibhor. Maduram, vadanam, maduram. Madhugandhi madhusmita meta daho. Maduram. You ever heard it? You've heard it before. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form. Sweet is still his face so fair. But his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. Now that inspired another poem, right? And then I'll let you go. So this one is without Sanskrit. There's Krishna's. It's a poem we did for a calendar that we did one year, and there's a picture. There's a painting for each month. So this is the painting of Krishna. You may have seen it. He's sitting outside in the forest on a very comfortable seat, flower seat, and then there's a little calf in front of him. There's a swan. And there's a deer, I think, and on his hand there's a little bird, a dove, And so he's relating, all of them love him, the whole forest, everyone, So, the sweetness of Shri Krishna's form beguiles. Still sweeter is his face like autumn moon, but sweeter than the sweetest is the smile, whose luscious beauty makes the gopi swoon. Govinda's beauty captivates the doves, the swan, the deer, the cow, and every tree. Indeed, in Braja, every creature loves Shri Krishna and is drowned in ecstasy. That all-enchanting land is paradise, our home where we may dwell eternally. Most welcome there are those who pay the price to learn to love Shri Krishna perfectly. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.